Today, While You Play What is going to show us exactly why everybody loves this game, at least when everything is going right, and he's playing in the legendary mouse. Really, nothing gets more formidable or more famous at tier 10 than the mouse. It really is an icon. It has the most health in the game, and While You Play What has actually accelerated or enhanced that with a bond hardening piece of equipment. That is the best equipment you can put on any tank to improve its health. And so that means that While You Play What is now, in his mouse, rocking 3,550 HP. That is just a mind-blowing amount. If you look at the Rinoceronte on the enemy team, that Rhino has 2,000 HP. While You Play What has essentially an entire second tank's worth of hit points as opposed to that Rinoceronte. And so that can really show you just how effective the mouse can be and really where its true strength lies. Beyond just having a huge amount of health, the mouse has incredibly workable armor. You will see that While You Play What right here is angling his tank so that his turret is, whenever he's not loaded, always facing the side of it towards his opponents. The mouse has incredible side turret armor, and you can angle this nearly at 45 degrees as if you're pointing the intersection of your front and side turrets at your opponents, and you will reliably bounce tons and tons of shells. In fact, perhaps the weakest point of the mouse's armor that people like to take advantage of is the front of the turret, that cheek point. And so if you are able to stick your turret out at the side, something like this angle right here, your opponents will have no chance of penetrating if they can only see the side of your turret. However, if you look at these cheeks, these are much more vulnerable, and your opponents will be looking to shoot them constantly as you go forward. They will need to load gold, but it's an inevitability that if you're playing the mouse, people are going to press the 2 key, and you're going to take 90% of your shots as gold shells. Notably, the mouse does really well in good matchups. Right here, this is a +2 matchup, and something like a T-44 or a Progetto really has no chance of penetrating a mouse frontally whatsoever. It really is a tank that does exceptionally well when it is top tier, and I should note that the mouse really has been very successful for me and for a lot of my clanmates in some of the 7 versus 7 events, in maneuvers, you could say in onslaught. The fact that this tank has so much health makes it an incredibly powerful option in a lot of different opportunities, and it really can affect a lot of team fights in an incredible way, because having this much health is just an incredible asset. One of the downsides of the mouse is it's very slow. While You Play What is actually running a Bond Turbo in order to counteract that, and you can see that he's gotten even up to 24 kilometers per hour. Still, it's never going to be the fastest tank, but it will be enough for him to get into position for an unaware TVP and shut down and get his first kill of the game. That's only his team's second kill, and there are only 6 of them remaining. That's 2 kills to 9 kills, and right here, While You Play What is going to have to play his socks off to get his team back into the game. Right here, he's hunting for a shot. Doesn't find anything that he particularly likes, so he just absorbs the hit, and now he's going to do something he's going to do a ton of throughout this replay. He's going to face hug. Look at how he angles his turret right here. He is not willing to give the cheeks of his turret to his opponents. Instead, he angles them at a 45-degree angle. He's not allowing the CC to get a shot in. Now that it's fired, he can focus on other tanks, and he's going to put a big shell into the Rhino, shutting down that tank and eliminating a very dangerous 3-round auto reloader. This CC has just been completely ignored. It's firing AP in this scenario, hasn't been able to penetrate the mouse whatsoever in this engagement, and While You Play What essentially ignored him throughout the entirety of that battle. That's just what you can do in a tank that has this much armor, and it really is, when the mouse works, it is a phenomenal experience. Now, While You Play What is going to make perhaps his best decision of this game. He's going to back himself into a corner so that nothing can get behind him, and that he can keep all of his opponents facing forward. The 50 TP that he was struggling with earlier is searching for a shot, still firing gold, but unable to really penetrate anything because of how well While You Play What angles. And now, While You Play What begins to face hug once again. He turns that turret to the side, and right now, While You Play What is so unconcerned with the 50 TP, he doesn't consider him a threat whatsoever. He ends up shooting the Progetto 46 in the background. That's going to be much harder for him to track down later on in this replay. Now he really needs to get the kill on the Char Future, who's going for a flanking play. He does manage it, however, unfortunately gets stuck on the rubble behind him, so the 50 TP finally puts in a penetrating shell into our hero. That, however, will not stop While You Play What from putting the penultimate shell into the 50 TP. Only needs one more to kill that tank, and right here, this should do it. Unfortunately, doesn't hit the Cola straight on. The 50 TP bounces as well, and so now we're in a bit of an awkward situation. And I should note that right now, While You Play What is in a 1 versus 7. This is one mouse on 2,000 hit points against 7 opponents. And while you might say, yes, an LT432 Progetto 46 has no chance against the mouse, something like a 121B has 350 millimeters of heat penetration. The Sturv 103B has phenomenal, I believe, over 370 millimeters of penetration. And so these are serious and dangerous threats. And from what we can tell, his opponents have 7,000 HP, although that has been reduced now in a 1 versus 6. And yes, he is still at a 6,000 hit point disadvantage, something that he quickly rectifies with one shell into the Progetto. He needs to focus down the priority targets. He needs to focus down kills. Right now, the Progetto is not a serious threat, but if it were to get his side, it could be difficult for him. This Ferdinand comes around. The Ferdinand has a very nice 128mm gun, but the Ferdy hits him and he bounces 320 damage. That means the Ferdinand is using the 105mm. That gun has substantially less penetration, and so at this point, While You Play What knows that this Ferdinand is truly not a threat. This Ferdy cannot penetrate him if he angles nearly at all, and so with the shell right there into the Sturv, he is whittling down his opponents one by one, and even as they come in multiple at a time, he's able to pull back behind this corner, and the Ferdinand can't do anything. What other tank could do this to its opponents? You really can hardly think of any. A tank that can just stand still in front of its opponents and take shot after shot after shot. This Ferdinand would be able to penetrate a wide variety of tier 10 vehicles. If this was a medium tank, he could go through it. Even if it was something like a T110 E5 or a Super Conqueror, those tanks could penetrate it. Right there, beautiful shell into the 121B actually sets it on fire, and for whatever reason, the 121B doesn't even bother shooting at the mouse despite having the reload advantage. It pulls completely all the way back, and then with a really great shot, While You Play What overmatches the front of the STRV 103B and has reduced that tank now to one shot. Problematically, the enemy team has gotten onto the cap, and so there is a time limit. He cannot stay in this corner forever. However, the Sturv makes a huge mistake, exposes its rear to our hero, and the most dangerous tank on the enemy team gets shut down in an instant right there. Now the artillery, for some unknown reason, has popped up, is quickly one-shot by the mouse, and now, praying for a high roll, While You Play What looks to put in another shell, and this should take him over 10,000 damage. Already a phenomenal round, but still, he only has 45 more seconds left on the cap. He's got 2 remaining tanks, and that 121B still has 350 millimeters penetration and the jump on him. The 121B should be able to penetrate him right here, does put in a good shell, and unfortunately he seems to bounce or to have his shell absorbed by the 121B tracks. However, he does manage to block the second shell up to nearly 9,000 block damage, and he has to push. He's only got 20 seconds left before the cap is finished. However, because this is encounter, all he needs to do is be on the cap, which he manages right here. The 121B actually has 1,000 plus HP, and that means that he's going to have to shoot the 121B 3 times. He puts it in his first shell, the LT432 is flanking around. Now he needs to put in his second shell, and the 121B should have survived, but makes a horrible mistake and rams the mouse. You never, ever ram a mouse. This is one of, if not the heaviest tanks in the game. He gets a kill through the ram through just a tiny itty-bitty nudge, and now perhaps the slowest or nearly the slowest tank at tier 10 is facing one of the fastest light tanks at tier 8. And we have really an immovable object meets an unspottable force. The LT432 is always going to be able to get the jump onto the mouse. If the mouse were to leave the cap circle, he would not be able to catch him ever. So really, while you play Watt has one option. He has to stay onto the cap and wait for the LT-432 to try to interrupt him. He is staying back, and the LT-432 in this situation has to try to find some angle where he can spot the mouse, like he does right there, and perhaps get a shot. Unfortunately for the LT-432, what is he going to do? He either has to get the flat side of the mouse and shoot gold, or spam HE for a prayer of a reset. However, the only way that he could shoot in from the side is from right there, and why you play Watt knows this. All these angles, there's really no hope of a penetrating shell from an LT, and so with 4 minutes left on this game and only 2 minutes left on the cap, we are just waiting in this waiting game to see what this LT does. I'm going to speed up the replay. This is going to take quite a while. I don't know why the LT didn't go back to his original spotting position to see where he spotted the mouse from the first time and then try loading in an HE shell. However, we did hear something break. We heard some gates crash. The LT actually gets proxy spotted, comes in, shoots a premium shell, but bounces because the mouse is just too absurdly strong, too well armored. And while you play Watt is playing disciplined, he's not chasing the damage because he knows he'd never catch up. Instead, he pulls back once again, and he's just waiting. When is this LT going to give him another chance? When is it going to expose itself again? He's pre-aiming onto where the LT came from before, but I would expect, from his point of view, he should expect the LT to come from a different angle. That's what good players do. They take different options, and there are a variety of different ways that the LT could approach this. However, unfortunately for that tank, I don't know what you would do against a tank that's 2 tiers higher, that has nearly infinite armor, in a machine, and a light tank that has nearly no penetration. Only 30 seconds left on the game, and I know why you play Watt is desperately wanting a victory right here. The LT pops out, he puts it in a shot. Unfortunately, while you play Watt misses, so the LT is coming forward, and the LT is probably aiming at his tracks. We're waiting. He bounces an HE shell, somehow does no damage. While you play Watt finishes the game by shooting the LT, kills him. 10 kills, a Pool's medal, a Colabanovs, a 1 versus 7 secured, and one of the most epic mouse games of all time. While you play Watt had one of the greatest mouse games you will ever see, cleaning up with 11,464 damage, 10 kills, and nearly 10,000 blocked. With the amount of damage he received, the damage he did, and the blocked, he nearly did heavy tank 15 for the object 260 twice. It was just a dominant masterclass of how impactful angling can be. While you play Watt, of course, top scores on his team, 1,760 base experience. Shout out to his Hori, who managed to do 3 kills and a decent amount of damage, whereas the rest of While You Play Watt's team did very little overall. We should also mention that the 121B actually had quite a good game overall, and while he did panic in the face of World of Tanks' healthiest chonky boy, he still had a remarkable game and nearly enough to take down the victory. While You Play Watt loses a substantial amount of credits, but of course I think that is a price he's definitely willing to pay for such an epic result. With that said, thanks for watching. If you would please like and subscribe, comment on this video what you enjoyed. We are running a 1,000 subscriber giveaway. When the channel hits 1,000 subscribers, I will be giving away one of you commenters a tier 8 premium tank, and others have a chance to win gold. So, if you would, press the red button, and I hope to see you in the next video. With that said, I'm Lad, and I'm out.